Iron Supporting Food Banks collects food and cash donations for needy families in Newham Borough and beyond. Please consider making a donation via their Just Giving page, the link for which you will find in the description section of this stream. Come on, you Irons!
West Ham are massive, everywhere we go! West Ham are massive, everywhere we go! Everywhere we go! West Ham are massive, everywhere we go! West Ham are massive, everywhere we go! Everywhere we go!
Good morning and welcome to the West Ham Massive. Thanks for joining us, and I'd like to start off by wishing you guys a Merry Christmas. I'm recording this on a dog walk, haven't done one of these for a while. On a dog walk around about 9 o'clock in the morning on Christmas Day. So, Merry Christmas to you and your family. Thanks for all your support. If you're new around here, don't forget to hit subscribe and click thumbs up on the video. All these things help to grow the channel. And they're totally free to you. Take a couple of seconds of your time. So what's not to like? So, a few little things I want to get stuck into, and I want your comments in the section below. I want audience participation as much as possible. So, in no particular order. So, let's start off with a few little transfer tidbits that are floating around there. And look, you know, whether these are fact or fiction, there's a lot of stuff that when it comes towards transfer window time, a lot of things that are rumours and speculation and whatever, and it's difficult to separate true fact from fiction. So let's get stuck into it. So, first story: Fikayo Tomori, AC Milan defender, formerly of Chelsea, England international. He's at AC Milan. He's been there for a couple of seasons. He's done really well. There's some whispers coming out of Italy that he may possibly be open to a move back to the Premier League, and this has put a number of clubs on notice. One of them is West Ham United, the other two being Newcastle United and Aston Villa. So I think he's a really good player, to be honest with you. I think that he'd be a player that would add something to all three teams. He would make them stronger defensively. He's got good experience, having played in the Premier League and played for one of the top teams in Italy, in AC Milan. Won a Scudetto, so he knows about winning, winner's mentality, what it takes to get over the line. So, a player that I still think has some development in him. He's still relatively young for a centre-back. I think he'd be a good signing for any of those three teams, but I'm really only interested in us. But here's the thing: who would he replace? Would he replace Max Kilman, a £40 million English centre-back? I think that if Julen Lopetegui remains in charge, the answer to that question is no, and that's a part of the puzzle, because the manager's sort of position is a little bit under scrutiny. It's safer than it was a few weeks ago, but still something that you look at and you're not quite sure. You know, is it going to go this way or that way? So I don't think he's replaced Kilman anytime soon. Todibo, I've not been overly impressed with him, if I'm being brutally honest. Now, part of that might be down to fitness. Part of that might be down to his relationship with the manager, or lack of one. But we're committed to shelling out, unless we get relegated, which realistically I don't think is going to happen. We're committed to shelling out the best part of, 35-40 million quid for him when the season ends. Would he replace him? Maybe. Mavropanos, he'd probably push him down the pecking order. Well, not probably, definitely. Does he block the career path of Cale and Casey? Most definitely. Could it be, and do excuse the barking, my little girl Winnie is saying hello to another dog on the other side of the road. So I do apologise if you hear any swearing. Or could it be that we're going to go three at the back? Three centre-backs? Could that be the way to deal with signing another centre-back, maybe. I don't know. Would he be a welcome addition? He would. Do I see it happening? To be honest with you, I think we've got more pressing positions to fill than centre-back. So, maybe in the summer, January, I'm not too sure. I'm really not sure. We'll see what happens. There is one that I think is a little bit more likely. Brais Mendez, I think that's how his name's pronounced. He is a central attacking midfielder, Spanish international. Last of his 4 caps came in 2021. 27 years of age. He is currently on the books at Real Sociedad. Now, as I said earlier, Fikayo Tomori, do we need another centre-back? I'm not entirely convinced we do. And if it is a position that we're looking to do some surgery on, in terms of priorities compared to other positions on the park, it's probably a little bit lower down the pecking order for me. Central midfield is really the one. I think we need a vibrant, energetic, mobile, box-to-box midfielder. You know, a Swiss Army knife of a central midfielder. A lot of the central midfielders we've got, they've got attributes, don't get me wrong. Edson Alvarez, Thomas Souček, etc. But they're all very samey, I think. So Brais Mendez would add something a little bit different, I think. The fact that he's at Real Sociedad as well is interesting. Because what I'm wondering now, apparently he's rated at 60 million euros. I'm not quite sure how much that works out to in sterling. It's probably something like 55 million quid or something like that. I don't know. But obviously at the moment, we have a player currently on loan at Real Sociedad in Naya Figueira. Now, I do wonder if the fact that we have a player on loan who is doing really well, he's had a little bit of an injury of late, which has pushed him back a little bit, but before that point he was doing really well for Sociedad, to the extent where even Real Madrid of all people are looking at him and possibly wondering whether they might sort of make a move. But at the minute he's on loan at Sociedad, and I do wonder if maybe, am I putting 2 and 2 together and making 5 by turning around and saying the fact that Aguirre is on loan at Sociedad and we're looking at a player at Sociedad, could it be that those two things could come together and that maybe there's some business there to be done? Possibly. As I say, I think that in terms of priorities in the 2 positions just discussed on this video, a centre-back and a central midfielder, which one's the priority for me? No contest, central midfield, 100%. So, out of these 2 stories that I've seen out there, Fikayo Tomori or Brais Mendez, which one do I think is more likely? On the basis of their positions, I would say probably Brais Mendez. And also the fact that we've got a player that's on loan at the club that he currently plays for, I think is probably another element to it. But now we're going to come at the elephant in the room. Is that I'm obviously saying all this and about transfers, and I've mentioned obviously about Lopetegui and is his position at the club safe, and I'm not entirely convinced he's on firm ground, although it's firmer than it was a few weeks ago. But when it comes to transfer business, who's actually going to be pulling the strings here? Now, I thought that Lopetegui was a head coach and Tim Steidten was like a director of football, technical director, call him what you want, right? And he was the guy that was going to be in charge of transfers. Now, obviously, summer transfer window, and we all have ideas on the fact that it would appear there were 3 people pulling the strings there. Lopetegui was behind certain signings, Steidten was behind certain signings, and there was a couple of signings that Sullivan is apparently involved in. So, who's going to be calling the shots in January? Especially now that it's come out, and Gonzo reported this on Hammers Chat yesterday, that it would basically appear that any authority, any power that Tim Steidten wielded in the previous transfer window has been diluted somewhat by some comments that have been attributed to the West Ham board. Now, I don't particularly think that from the outside looking in, and I'm not an in the know, I'm just a regular fan, same as you, I do question how good Tim Steidten has actually been at his job. But I also have to factor in, has he been allowed to do his job? Has he been allowed the full autonomy to do his job? I mean, for me, Tim Steidten should have been the person appointing the head coach, I believe. That didn't happen by all accounts. Quite the reverse. Now, it's turning out that he's had his powers somewhat diluted, as well as the fact that he wasn't the guy that pulled the strings on appointing Lopetegui in the first place. There's been signings that have been made that really weren't anything to do with him. The likes of Kilman, the likes of Somerville, for example. And I just sort of sit there and I think, well, number one, really, is if I was in his shoes, how would I feel? Would I, knowing that my role has been diminished over a period of time, it kind of would then lead me to the question, well, what's the point of me being here? I think Steidten will go in the summer at least. I think if he had any self-respect, he'd probably realise that the writing's on the wall and he'd probably get out. That probably won't happen though, because he'd probably have to forego some sort of compensation or something like that if he walks voluntarily. That doesn't tend to happen in modern football. So probably won't happen. I think probably if he had any pride in his professional standing, he'd jump on his horse and trot off out of London Stadium. But it'd just be interesting to see who's actually going to have the final say in January on signings. Is it going to be Steidten? Doesn't look like it. Is it going to be Lopetegui? A manager who a lot of people think, and again I'll reference Gonzo, think that is essentially a caretaker manager. Reminds me a little bit of when Manuel Pellegrini was manager of Manchester City after Roberto Mancini left. The hierarchy at Man City really wanted to go for Pep Guardiola, but at the time it was I don't know if he was manager of Bayern Munich at the time or whether he was on his sabbatical, whatever it was. So the hierarchy at Man City got Manuel Pellegrini in. Now, say what you want about him as a West Ham manager, he won them the Premier League, in fairness, and I think he also won them a couple of League Cups from memory. So he did a decent enough job, but he was essentially a transitional manager between Mancini and Guardiola. And I do wonder whether possibly Lopetegui is effectively a transitional manager. And maybe all along we had designs on installing a manager further down the track that maybe wasn't available last summer, maybe will be next summer, summer after that, who knows? I don't know. Like I say, purely speculation on my part. Could be putting two and two together and making five. But it'd be interesting to know what your thoughts on all of these things are, and a good bit besides. So you have a comment section below. Get stuck in. Fikayo Tomori, AC Milan centre-back, England international, formerly of Chelsea. He's on the radar of us, Newcastle and Villa. What do you think? Do we need another centre-back? Would he improve us? Would we change shape, or who would drop out to accommodate him? What are your thoughts? Brais Mendez, Real Sociedad. Same club that Naya Figuere's on loan to. Spanish international, 27 years of age. Central attacking midfield. Again, what are your thoughts on prioritisation? If we can only get one player in, and these are the two players we're looking at, a centre-back and central midfield, what's your priority? For me, it's central midfield. And who's going to be calling the shots in January when it comes to transfers? Is it going to be Steidten, who's already had his wings clipped? Is it going to be Lopetegui, whose days at the club, maybe they're secure, maybe they're not, who knows? Or is it going to be David Sullivan? I know who my money's on, and probably you're thinking the same thing that I'm thinking, but maybe not. Comment section below, tell me what you think. As always, guys, don't forget to click subscribe if you're new around here. Hit a thumbs up on the video. Merry Christmas to you and your family, and I'll see you again soon. Come on, you Irons.
Irons supporting food banks collects food and cash donations for needy families in Newham Borough and beyond. Please consider making a donation via their Just Giving page, the link for which you will find in the description section of this stream. Come on, you Irons.
West Ham are massive.